just to finish off our experience, let's go and add the same values we did to our HUD over to our game menu, because our game menu should also tell us how much experience we have. So let's add that here, and we'll also use that as an example to show what happens when we can't fill the game menu like this. So this is where a rich text system might be a little more complicated than a standard text system, as I was explaining earlier when we added our skill level to our HUD. However, it is still a much easier way to manage your fonts. So to start with, let's grab a vertical box. So this vertical box is going to be in charge of anything to do with our experience. So let's name it VB_experience, and we'll move it up as well. I'm going to put mine between the title and the game menu. You could put yours in a corner if you wanted to. I kind of like it right in the middle. Now inside that vertical box, we're going to put a horizontal box. Which is going to be in charge of arranging some other elements horizontally, and we'll also put a progress bar. I don't want this progress bar to be going all the way from the left to the right. I don't want it to take up the entire thing. So what I'm going to do is shorten the entire vertical box here. So when I select the vertical box at the top, because it's attached to the background blur, and the background blur is attached to the border, and the border is determining that size, what we actually want to do is detach that from the background blur. Which gives us more control of the vertical box, but now we need to recenter it. So let's give it a 0.5. Let's anchor it to the center, change its position to 0 and 0, make the height 1080, so the Y value. And now we can adjust the size of that. So let's go with 540 for now. So a subdivision of our resolution. And you could do this for all of your menus. If you didn't want the buttons taking up the entire screen, just the center, you're more than welcome to do that. For now, I'm just going to do it to this menu. I might do it differently for other menus, and if I do, you will be notified. So with our horizontal box selected, let's go and get some rich text box. I'm going to want 2 of them at the very minimum. One of them is going to tell the player what level they are, and the other one's going to tell them how many points they have left. And the bar is just going to represent that. So with the first rich text box selected, let's select our standard text style for both of them. We'll set an example here as well. So this will be level 1. And the other text block will be 0/1000. Again, we've got mumbo jumbo because we need to compile and save. Now, the other thing we'll do here is align our text block to the other side. So they're on either side. So hit fill on both of them, and then change the alignment on both of them to left and right, like so. Now let's make a space between our map and this vertical box. Let's get a spacer, shove it in our main vertical box. So this is why it's important to name them, because if we just had 2 that said vertical box, that would be a little bit confusing. Now let's add space to that vertical alignment. Let's say 50, or you could even go further if you want, maybe even 100. Just enough space to determine those as different. And if you want to adjust the space here, hit auto on the game menu, copy that spacer over and paste it back on the vertical box. And you can put a spacer on the other side as well. So now you have two spaces to determine the space between those two. And now that that space is a little bit smaller, I'm going to change this to 250, 200. 200 seems a little bit too big, but we'll try it anyway. I like the idea of them both being the same distance from each other. So let's try 150. I'm trying to keep these buttons somewhat in the middle as well. That's pretty good for now. I mean, you know, it's up to you how you want to fine tune this. I'm just showing you the way. It's up to you to walk it. So let's go and set these rich text blocks on the other side. Let's create a custom event. We're going to call this update experience because our experience in-game will only update if the game is playing. So we're going to actually need to call this event every time this menu is created. So let's go ahead and create the menu, update experience. So every time this menu is created, it will update these values. Let's go and name those rich text blocks. So the first one will be rich text underscore exp level. And the second one will be rich text underscore exp points. So now when we pop over to the graph, we can see them here for what they are. Let's drag them in and set text. So this is how we're going to have to set the text inside. Normally, for a text value, if you had a text value, you could just set it directly, but we need to actually reference it as a blueprint. But this is set and forget code. You don't have to set this 1,000 times. It'll set itself once it's running, so we're all good. So this menu doesn't have a hero reference, so we will get player character and cast to be underscore hero, whatever your character's name is. You've seen this before. And now we will get experience. So because we only need to use this reference once so far, we will only do the casting specifically for this. If you need to use the reference multiple times, feel free to save it as a variable as we've done almost every other time. Now we will break experience. And what we want to do with this text is append. We want the append underneath string. So this is a little hack here. Text and string can be interchangeable. So we will plug that in here because we're going to need a text block for every single value if we do it the other way. So if I do it this way, I can type in level and that space, and then plug in the experience level here. And then I'm going to drag this down because this is the third value here. So I want to keep this experience neat. So it would make sense to use experience points and experience needed here. Let's go and grab our experience points rich text. We will set text, append, put experience points in the top, then hit a slash, and then add a pin and put experience needed in the bottom. I believe we did a similar thing with appending a print string earlier, but now we get to do it for realsies. And that'll do there. I could spend all day cleaning up, but you know, there's only so much you can make spaghetti look nice. So there's that done, and that's going to update every single time. Lastly, let's go and make that binding for our progress bar. And it's going to be exactly the same as our initial binding that we did inside of our HUD. So we could actually go and copy that over. Click on experience points. So now that I can see that we need a second hero reference, I now would consider whether I should keep the casting there or do the casting and then use the references. I'm going to just make another casting. So we will copy the beginning of this from HUD player. And now we'll go to %, create binding, paste that, get player character, cast to hero, and you can probably see why I wanted to wait until the menus were done before we got started with experience, because some of our experience is very much UI based. Nothing wrong with that, but we do want to try and do things in an orderly fashion. Compile and save. Let's also change get %0 to a nice name like get experience points. Compile and save that again. Back to the test map, hit play. Now, we're obviously going to get a value of 0 if we don't have anything. So hit your test key, whatever it is, -P for player or points. I'm going to leave it there for now. And if I press I, we can see that that's been represented there. I haven't changed the color of my progress bar, and I will go and do that now, but that is there ready to go. Now if I hit back and I was hit P a few more times, and I've leveled up, and now I hit I again, we've got level 1, 700 points out of 1100. So let's just go and change the color of that progress bar before we close out. Scrolling down to appearance, fill color and opacity. Again, don't get confused because there are a lot of color values inside of widget UI. And now when I hit P and press I, we are live there. Now, because that bar is sticking out a lot here in comparison to, say, this one here, I am going to try and copy those values. And this is a good idea if you want to keep things consistent. Let's grab that progress bar and have a look at that. Our tint is what's dropped down here for our background image to 0.5. So I'm going to go to my game menu and go up to tint and drop that down to 0.5 because we don't need to see the back of that. Let's do a little testaroonie. P. Press I. That looks a lot better. That's our experience system ready to go. And as soon as we have some enemies on the map that can cause us some damage and that we can kill, they can give us experience points, and those experience points will be represented. We'll look into skill points again when we do our skills menu, obviously, but that'll do for experience for now.